Get your thinking caps on, because today we're gonna have some massive takes. Okay, we're gonna have a lot of EO takes. Now, you guys love your EO takes. Some people don't like them, but in reality, it's not that you don't like the EO take, bruh. It's that you're just not equipped enough. You're not mentally equipped to understand the EO take before it's explained. But don't worry, today we're gonna be doing a lot of milking. Okay, I'm gonna milk a lot of you guys in chat today. If you guys don't understand something, if you come to the YouTube comments and you don't understand something, don't worry, bruh. I'm gonna milk you so that you understand exactly what it is that you need to be.
I can't keep up with the bit. We're jumping into the tier list today. Okay, so properly introducing what's going on. Zenless Zone Zero's tier list from Prydwen normally goes under a lot of heat, but the main thing that I want to talk about today is the fact that for once, I mostly agree with the changes that Prydwen's tier list has made. Now, mind you, this all falls in line with everything that I've been talking about for the course of the last 2, 3, 4 tier list videos that I have on my channel. A few of the changes that you'll hear me talk about today in today's video have been something that I've stated before or I've explained in previous videos. And today it's kind of like a justification as to why. Now, not so much a justification from myself or from Prydwen, I should say, because Prydwen doesn't have the same reasons all the time that I might have the same reasons for things, right? Or my reason for something might be the same reason or might not be the same reason that Prydwen has. So I think that's what we're going to be talking about, but I want to try and keep this video under 20 minutes. Normally my tier list videos are like freaking an hour long, 40 minutes long. And while that's great for my retention time, I really do want to try and give you guys as much condensed information as possible so that you're not, sticking around for too long. But because I know this is going to be in the future, real quick, y'all got a sponsor. Are you tired of losing? Are you tired of losing those 50-50s to bullshit? Don't worry, big dog, I got just the deal. Introducing Lootbar, a popular top-up website that offers you purchases up to 23% cheaper. Nani? Now you can score that cool jafufu without missing a beat. Using Lootbar is actually pretty easy too. All we have to do is pick the pack we want, type in our game UID, make the purchase, and voila. But wait, there's more. Not only does Lootbar use the same in-game routing as Zenless, but they're even working around 7 days a week to provide their own trustworthy service. And because I'm me, just for you guys, I got Lootbar to double down. New users get a 10% off coupon right now. And I also have an exclusive link down below in the description that you can use to get a discount on top of that. Now get out there and go pull that new character. Welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed that sponsor and you got your pulls going from Lootbar, but we got this. We got the tier list. So you guys have the changelog if you want to see anything of the changes that are being made for the changelog. I think we can go right into it. We can just straight up look at tier 0 and tier 0.5. Most of what we see here has not been changed, right? Most of it. Miyabi and Ishwin, Vivian, Astra, Lighter, Yuzu are all still in tier 0. This is pretty much the same. We don't have to talk about this too much. My takes on Miyabi and Ishwin not being in the same caliber is still what it is. Tier 0.5. Alice, Evelyn, Hugo, Yanagi. We have Jafufu, we have Nicole, and Sokaku. And you'll notice 2 characters are no longer in this tier. Actually, 3 characters are no longer in this tier 0.5 tier. We're going to talk about this for a little bit. What are these 3 characters? Going to be Bernice, we're going to see Lycan, and we're going to see Trigger, all dropping from tier 0.5. Let me just double check, right? Tier 0.5, tier 0.5, yep. No one dropped from tier 0. Okay, just wanted to double check here. All of these characters, all 3 of these characters are dropping from tier 0.5. Let's talk about it. First, we'll start with Bernice. Why did Bernice drop from tier 0.5? It probably just comes down to no usability, or rather less usability, if that makes sense. I feel like when it comes to the sub DPS category and whatnot, Vivian is just doing it a little bit better, according to the mass populace. Now, in my opinion, I think there are situations or fights where Bernice shines better than Vivian. However, I'm learning more and more. This comes down to like purely player skill. And I know that sounds crazy for me to say, but Bernice is a little easier to manage than Vivian when it comes to keeping up her burn or the meter. She's a little bit more passive. And you don't have to worry about too many things, right? You can also build Bernice. I know people don't like it, but as we see, the ultimate version of Bernice includes both crit rate and her anomaly build. It's maximizing the stats of both when possible. When using something like that with Bernice, your damage, her damage output, her passive damage output, it's able to keep up with whatever you got going on. And in a lot of scenarios, I feel like certain teams, once again, Piper with Bernice will excel over Piper with Vivian. I do have some videos on my channel that show this exact thing happening, where I'm using Piper and Vivian, and they still clear right under like the 2:30-minute line or 2-minute 30-second line, but Piper and Bernice clears under like the minute and 50 or minute and 58, somewhere around there. Like they clear faster than Vivian. I could have the times mixed up. It's been a while, right? It's the beginning of 2.0, so I could definitely have those times mixed up. But the same thing could be said for Alice and Bernice, or Jane and Bernice. It really just comes down like how you're playing, how you're comfortable, or what you're comfortable with the team. Let's see why Prydwen dropped her down though. So she went from 0.5 to tier 1. While Bernice is the weakest limited secondary DPS, she has remarkable performance in several teams even to this day. So they said the same thing that I said. The only reason why she was bumped out of the Apex power bracket is because she has been outclassed in all teams by Vivian, and in teams where Yanagi is great as a secondary like Alice and Miyabi, she also displays significantly higher performance. So we dropped Bernice down to tier 1 to reflect this. So as I said before, I do think there are some teams where Bernice shines, in particular the ones with Piper, especially because if we dictate like how a Piper player plays, or rather what Vivian entails, in order for you to get around these things, particularly with playing the team with Vivian, you do need to understand how to activate those blooms. Now, one of the things that we talked about with Piper was that you get double blooms or get like off as many blooms as possible. Piper typically wants to do hold EX for like a little bit. After like the second or third swing, you let it go. What's going to happen is she's going to jump into the air and slam down. That's going to give you two uses of an EX skill, basically, because that's the way the game reads it, which means you'll be using 2 blooms. But what most Piper players do, hold EX skill, spin to win until you get a sold, spin to win some more, and then you let it go, swap out and do whatever it is that you want to. In the event that you don't want to play Piper in that like hold spin, let it go, hold spin, let it go, and like a little less calculated, that's where Bernice really starts to shine. So again, just a different way of going about how these characters operate. We talk about Lycan, and I said the same thing. I'm pretty sure the same thing is going to apply here. Lycan should have never been in tier 0.5 in the first place. Like as far as like today 2.0 version of the game, Lycan is not a tier 0.5. He's not a tier 0.5 stunner. The only reason he was up there was because Miyabi brought up the whole mono ice thing, and he was basically there. Now, what could have happened, he could have had a partner tag, and then that could have brought him up in a tier 0.5. But even then, that's still pretty skeptical. That still could have been skeptical that, you know, bringing him up to tier 0.5, even with the partner tag, could have been a questionable thing. Let's look at why Prydwen did this. Let's see if we match up. Lycan is in a similar position to Bernice, where he was bumped down not due to lack of his own strength, but rather because he got outclassed in his best use case, which was the Miyabi mono ice teams by Yuzuha. But Lycan is still one of the second best stunners or one of the 2 best stunners for Hugo as well as Ellen. His best case use has become less relevant with the release of Yuzuha, which warrants this teardrop. Now, where I'll disagree with, I don't really think him getting used less in these particular teams would have warranted the teardrop. I think if you're going to drop him for the tier, it should be because of his kit, or like in this case, the outclassing. However, this is the whole thing with Zenless, right? Mono ice is not the same thing as Yuzu ice. And I need to elaborate that because I have a feeling someone's going to take that, they're going to clip it, and they're going to run with it out of context. Same concept, right? Like it's still abusing Anomaly. You're still abusing Frost and Ice from Sokaku. But what I'm trying to get at is the way that these teams play to get to their objective, you play them differently. No, Mo, it's not the same. Sonic and Shadow both are speedsters. They want to get to the same goal. They don't run the same. Their objective or their way of running is not the same. The goal is to get to end game, right? To finish, cross the finish line. How they get to the finish line is not the same. This is what I'm explaining here. That's why I said, like, let me elaborate. Then here come this motherfucker Mo. What? No, they are the same. I raised you better than that, Mo. You know better. This doesn't take away the end game though. Their goal is still to abuse Freeze, which is why I don't want to get into the argument behind mono ice versus Yuzu ice. I'm quite literally only bringing this up to explain to people that when you play mono ice, so this would be with Lycan and with Sokaku, the way you play the team is differently than when you play Yuzu and Sokaku. Same game plan or same goal, same end goal, but they play differently, which means they have different purposes or they can serve different purposes. In a situation where you need more stuns or you need the stun faster, you need the extra stun multiplier. Anything that Lycan might be able to provide, mono ice might swing a little bit better in your favor. But when you're talking about abusing just straight up like the freeze and the elemental disorders and reactions and whatnot, basically anomaly, that's where you would see Yuzu Ice shine the most. Now, one of the key factors that I do want to bring up is that Yuzu Ice is, when I say significantly, it's not easy. They're both hard as shit to play. These are easily the most difficult teams, like top 3, right? And I'm pretty sure it's number 1 most difficult teams to play in the game. But yeah, it just comes down to a point of like your game plan. How do you want to play? What do you want to do? My main point being it's not to argue Mono Ice versus Yuzu Ice, it's to explain that there are differences between the teams. Why I'm explaining there's differences between the teams goes into my point originally about Lycan and how Lycan was only brought up originally to tier 0.5 because of Mono Ice in the first place. The same thing with Sokaku. Now we see though, Sokaku finally has the partner tag. The reason she's up here, it's labeled because of Miyabi, and this is fine. This is valid, right? For her to have that being up here, and she can still be used outside of Miyabi, that's fine. Lycan doesn't have that because Lycan is still used with Hugo, which keeps him relatively high, and he stays up here. Trigger, dropping down. This is the big one, and I really don't want to harp on this. My stance hasn't changed on Trigger. Nobody can nobody can find me not saying, or nobody can find me saying that I've ever said Trigger is tier 0. Without her engine, without Trigger's engine, I've never said she's tier 0. I've even said Ching Yi is better than Trigger, and people argued me down about why I have to be wrong. So here we are. Prydwen has dropped Trigger down to tier 1. A lot of people don't like this. A lot of people feel like she's definitely a tier 0.5 character or even tier 0, right? They were upset when she got dropped from tier 0 to 0.5, and now they're upset she got dropped from 0.5 to tier 1. Now, from what I read based on my own Twitter post, they dropped her because of the W engine. That was their reason again. Trigger could still be argued to have tier level 0.5 level performance, provided she has her signature W engine, thanks to the remarkable potential it nets her as a general buffer, stunner, and defense shred applier. However, since our tier list doesn't include signatures, currently she's moving down to tier 1. Let me explain why, even though somebody might have an issue with that reasoning, because they basically use the same reason twice. Correct me if I'm wrong when I make this second statement here. Originally, when Trigger was tier 0, the stun and support categories were separated, right? Stunners had their own category, supports had their own category. That is why she was placed in tier 0 and then dropped down to tier 0.5. Then they fused categories and she remained in tier 0.5. Why is this relevant? The same reason that you could argue why Lighter doesn't belong in tier 0 is because he's being matched up with now Astra and Yuzu. These two characters bring a significant amount of account balance, right? Or account influence, whatever, into somebody's account. Whereas Lighter does not hold the same value or same power level that Astra or Yuzu would bring into their account, based off what other people are saying. So that same argument could be applied here. If we look at Trigger in the same fashion, and now we start comparing her, Jafufu, no engine, versus Trigger, no engine, Jafufu is better. This has nothing to do with Prydwen. I like Trigger. I like Trigger more than I like Jafufu. I'm not even gonna hold you. If you ask me to build a team, I'm defaulting to Trigger before I default to Jafufu, with or without Ishwin. But let's look at what Jafufu provides versus Trigger, just from the base kit alone. They both deal off-field stun, right? They both have off-field stun capabilities through the use of their kit or aftershock. Where are we at here? Here we go. Let's bump this all the way up. Bada bing bop bop. So Jafufu is giving a crit damage increase, pain attack, and ultimate damage increase. She's increasing her own impact, and she also increases even more crit damage, right? She gets an extra crit damage increase. So I'll keep that as the same thing with crit damage increase. And then this is the big one here. Increases the maximum decibels given to the entire team, and she refunds attack or rupture characters using an ultimate. They get a refund, 300 decibels. This is giving teams the ability to whip out 2 ultimates within the stun window, or start the stun window with an ultimate, and then in the middle or right at the end of the stun window, right before it ends, whip out another ultimate. Jafufu's benefits towards a team at a base level, just the kit. Let's look at triggers. You get a 35% stun damage multiplier. Ignore the 5 seconds because we all know that this is pretty much permanent. As long as Trigger is hitting somebody, you're gonna have this stun damage multiplier on, right? When another squad when another character in your squad is an attack character or shares the same attribute, triggers crit rate exceeding 40%, increases the days she deals by aftershocks. This is for her. This isn't for the team. So we're comparing a character that one half of her ability, right, her additional passive benefits her, the other half benefits the team. Both of her abilities benefit everybody. And you know what? I guess you could say that, right? Next, it could be fair because Days is going to help her get more faster shocks. So I won't even take that away from her. Let's say that both of these benefit the team. Now we have to dictate who's going to stun faster. If we're dictating who's stunning faster, that comes down to how you're playing each of these characters. We get back here and we look at why one is in tier 0.5 and one is in tier 1. And even what Nyx is saying could also apply. There's the same difference between Astra and Nicole. A tier's difference. One's a buffer, one's a debuffer. I could accept that. I see it. So yeah, it could be that way, right? One's a debuffer, one's a buffer. Jafufu being the buffer, Trigger being the debuffer. I don't think this is really worth arguing. I know a lot of people just like Trigger, but I say this all the time. People like Trigger because she allows them to play their favorite character. So fucking Juyuin or Seed or Sambi, Jane, whoever you want to play, doesn't matter, right? Just name a fucking DPS. Trigger being an off-field stunner allows players to play that character on field as long as possible. That is the biggest reason, outside of her ass being fat, that people like Trigger for these teams and then decide to cape for her in the same manner. You have people putting Trigger on the same value as an Astra. These two are not the same. They're not on the same level. I don't have to argue it personally because, like I said, I would pick Trigger over Fufu. But if that's the case, the same thing that I said a long time ago when I was talking about the different levels between 0.5 and tier 1 and whatever else, if the argument is why are these two separated, Jafufu and Trigger, then I'm going to be on the side of bringing the other down. Don't bring Trigger back up, just bring Jafufu down. If you're ever able to argue that Jafufu is on the same level as Trigger without her W engine and does not offer any more value, you just bring her down. That's really all it is. Mind you, I'm still telling people Ching Yi is tier 0.5. But it is what it is. One of these days we'll have the Ching Yi believers standing up for justice. Let's also talk about, we don't have to get on these changes yet because that'll be the last of them. Seed coming out in tier 1. I really wanted to keep this under like 20 minutes. That's not possible. So we're here now. Seed debuting in tier 1 along with Zuyuin, Piper, Jane, Ellen, and even Sanbi. That's probably the biggest one, is that she's debuting with Sanbi. Why did so many people have an issue with this? I'm gonna say something that I think is, I know we'll talk about it more. Me and Sol are gonna talk about it more tomorrow. I'm also gonna talk about it more today on stream. Shortly after you see this video, you'll see the video where I talk about it, right? Seed is probably the perfect attack character that you guys could have gotten put into the game. And I know that sounds crazy. I should definitely elaborate on what I mean by that. So I'm gonna add some more context. Seed is almost a perfect, and I say almost because I don't know the reason why I wouldn't say it. Seed is almost a perfectly balanced character. And it's perfectly valid, her coming out at tier 1. If she came out anything higher than tier 1, based off like what we're looking at as far as visuals, I think she'd be a little too strong. I think her coming out in this particular case, being able to not only buff herself, but also buff her partner, the Vanguard, which would be another attack character, is very good. Seed's potential, exactly, Zena. Seed's potential to grow is very high. You release a strongest attack character that happens to fluctuate on and off the field, and Seed skyrockets in terms of potential. I don't think Seed's potential is going to skyrocket like that when Orphie comes out. I think Orphie is going to come out, and then what we'll probably see, just because of Orphie the character, I have access to Seed server now, so I'm going to be like doing a little bit of tinkering and testing with that. But what we'll probably see, you're probably going to see Sanbi and Seed jump up to tier 0.5 specifically because of Orphie. You're going to see Orphie jump into 0.5 on debut as a tier 0.5 character and go from there, right? That's what I think is going to happen. That doesn't mean that I agree with that particular placement or whatever it is. Right now, I think that Seed is great. And I said this in my tweet, as a new player or a mid-level player trying to get a stronger attack comp, trying to get into attack, Seed is a perfect pickup for you. Why? Because Seed allows you to expand. I'm taking that word that Zena just said, and you pretty much just said it. Seed will probably expand how future attack agents operate. Seed allows you to play with what you have now and be prepared for the future when it inevitably happens. If we look at the track record for everything that's happened, not only in Zenless, but any of the Hoyo games, you would have to be a fool, blind, to think that we're not going to get something that works almost perfectly around how Seed's kit functions. Right now, there are a lot of options for characters that are premium, but most importantly, the one character you get for free as a DP at Billy. Billy has a premium Seed team and a free-to-play Seed team. Mind you, both of these teams, let me see if I can find it just for the sake of the video real quick, guys. Yeah, this isn't specifically the video that I wanted to show off, but I'm hoping that this is going to help you guys understand the concept here. When I spoke about this team or free-to-play teams in general, I spoke about why a DPS would work very well with a character like Seed. And I said that essentially you're looking for either a burst style DPS character, which means a character is going to come out in a particular time, usually the stun window, and do all their damage. And Seed plays on the field in order to build up all the resources, which is what we're seeing here versus Jester. We see Seed come out. We see Nicole being a support, bringing in her quick assist, things like that. And Seed is doing all of the damage and resource building outside of the stun window. Billy is already locked and loaded. He had a full stick of butter. He's got his ultimate ready to go. Now, here's one of the issues that this particular team, and any team for that matter, run into with, let me turn the volume down a little bit, with Seed not having a stunner. So now you need to dictate some of your DPS characters really enjoy that stun window, like Zhu Yuan. And so you change it. Now you do want Chingy on that team instead of Nicole, or you want Nicole for, you know, the extra support, the defense shred, whatever. But you get what I'm getting at, right? It's purely the concept. She does her rocket punch, zoom, zoom, zoom. Nicole comes in, and they should finish off with Billy. Like, I don't know why we're, there we go. I was gonna say, I don't know why we're still sitting there on Seed, but what should have happened was they should have came out with Billy, with his ultimate and his EX skill, and wiped the floor with Jester. This Jester should not still be living right now. So this is definitely not the video that I would want to show off, but the concept is here. I'll try and find a better video if we can do that so that you guys are more aware, but hopefully this kind of gives an idea of what it is that I'm talking about, right? And if it doesn't, like I said, I'll go through it and do that. Put Impact 6 on all three. Hey, he said it, not me. Finishing out the Seed conversation. Seed is a very balanced, well-rounded attack type character that buffs other attack units. This means you can play with almost every other attack character in the game. In fact, let me just verify. I want to see all of the attack characters that work with, and I'm pretty sure it's all of them, but let me just double check. We're going to click on attack. Anton, pass. Someone will prove me wrong, I'm sure, but for the most part right now, I'm going to pass. We're going to remove Anton. Seed and Sambi work together. Yes. Seed and Billy work together. Yes. Seed and Corey work together. Yes. Nix, the only reason I'm saying pass is because I genuinely don't know. I haven't seen any gameplay with Anton. It's very hard for me to find Anton players. What do you think that 5-hour call with Flossin was about? You told me Haramasa. Y'all were in there playing Anton instead? Anton asked for Seed. Okay. Anton. Anton and Seed work together. So now we don't have a missing one. Ellen and Seed work together. Evelyn and Seed work together. Haramasa and Seed work together. Do we know Hugo? I don't know Hugo. Does he work with Seed? Is this valid? In my head, on paper, I don't think this is valid, but maybe y'all know something I don't. Nekomata and Seed absolutely work together. You said unfortunately. Okay, Hugo and Seed work together. Orphie and Seed work together. She can't play with herself. Soldier 11 and Seed work together. Duyuin and Seed work together. So Seed, an attack character that buffs other attack characters, has been released into the game, and she works with every single attack agent in the game. Does this mean that all of these teams or any of these teams are top 1% clear teams? No. Something working with something or being viable does not all of a sudden mean that it needs to be tier 0 or it has to be a top tier team. This is, and y'all know I don't even like using this term, this is an elitist way of thinking. Everyone is not playing the game the same way. I like playing Sambi, but I acknowledge she got some faults, okay? It's just not for me, not for me. someone really enjoys playing Corrin. Billy mains exist. Anton mains exist. And you're gonna tell them that because their team isn't top tier, that they wouldn't benefit from picking up seed? That's foolish. You are not benefiting anybody. If you're trying to give advice to anybody ever, this goes out to content creators, viewers, players, anything. If someone comes to you and they're like, yo, I want seed, here's what's on my account, can it work? You tell them how it works. Your whole thing is to help them figure out how it works. You're not there to tell them, ah, man, well, I really see that you have an M6 Nekomata and you really do like Neko, but honestly, not worth picking up seed, bro. Just skip. You should save for a completely different character that you don't even have on your radar. You should just run double support. Run Nekomata, Astra, and Nicole. Which we clearly know is not stronger than seed, right? How do we know that? Well, let's go down. For the longest time, we've had access to double support, right? And I say it that way because it's funny. Double support. We've had access to double support for the longest time. We know this. Nekomata has been the bottom of the barrel DPS since what, like post 3 patches after the game release, something like that. She's been sitting in tier 4, maybe tier 3, then she got dropped down to tier 4, right? And as you see now, she got bumped up one whole tier. Baby girl is now tier 3. Why? Partner, seed. If double support was enough to bring her up, then this would have said partner double ether support, right? Just like how Anton has partner Astra Yao. This would have been enough to bring Nekomata up, but it wasn't. Who was? Seed. Why? Because they function together as a team. They functionally support each other as a team. This is very important to understand when you're talking about anything pertaining to Zenless Zone Zero. What functions as a team and why? It doesn't always have to be tier 0 damage, tier 0 team, because if that were the case, we would be looking at Nikkei's tier list. We would be looking at Wuthering Waves tier list, where almost everything is in tier 0 or tier 0.5 upon release. We're not looking at that. Soldier 11 and Seed together is shit. I don't like it either. By no means am I even saying that it's a great thing. I'm just saying it works. And I don't even think she got bumped down. Yeah, she partner lighter. Prydwen probably didn't even acknowledge Soldier 11 and Seed. They just threw it there. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. The final things that we're looking at here, the changes, Lucy and Caesar, which I don't really have too much to say about these two characters in particular in terms of like them dropping down. Caesar is a character that we've talked about quite often on this channel whenever she does get brought up. Great concept. She was amazing on launch, and for a long time, Caesar was one of the best supports that we could have had in the game. Shields, right? Complete shields. And then eventually it got to a point where like her shields just pretty much get one tapped, you know, and after the shield and the attack buff, Caesar don't really do nothing for your team. They need to change her kit entirely. Like she just needs a complete revamp. She needs what Ellen got and what Sanby is getting. I was hoping Caesar was number 2 to get that rework, but the devs assume or believe that Sanby needs it more, so it is what it is. But regardless, we're kind of here now. Let's look at the last little change logs here to see why they did what they did. Lucy going from tier 1 to tier 0.5. While Lucy still has great flexibility in almost any team in the game, her buffs are gotten outclassed by all of the best teams of characters in the tiers above her. And she's outclassed everywhere by Yuzu, Nicole, and Astra too, barring very few exceptions. Lucy isn't performing as well as she used to, hence we dropped her down a tier. This makes sense. You can't argue this. I don't think anyone's arguing this, right? Inevitably, your best free-to-play support, or rather your second best, because Nicole's right there, your second best free-to-play support being Lucy, with so many other characters coming out that can do what she does or help benefit the team in a way, eventually she's gonna have to drop down. She can't stay in the same tier, right? We're not gonna say, even if you just don't like Trigger being in tier 1. We're never gonna say Trigger and Lucy are in the same tier, right? Now, what you can say, and I actually do agree with this, Lucy and Panda are on the same tier. Sure, bring Panda's bitch ass down. That motherfucker is not a tier 1 unit. Bring him down. However, now we look at Caesar and Lucy. Are these two on the same tier? Is Rena and Lucy on the same tier? And now you could probably start having some debates or arguments, things like that, here and so forth. So it is what it is. We look at Caesar, similar to Lucy. While Caesar's shields and abilities to provide interrupt resistance are definitely great, her main issue is that her attack buff only applies to a single agent at once. Unfortunately for her, we've entered a meta where either multiple agents contribute to a single damage total, being an anomaly team or any anomaly team, or multiple agents want to deal damage at once. While Caesar's buffing potential might not be quite where it once was, and while we do acknowledge her shielding is a game changer in the eyes of many who enjoy the comfort they provide, we're still moving forward, moving her down. I think this is justified. I think they could have been a little bit more critical on like why they're doing it. And it's simply just saying exactly what I said before. She provides nothing else beyond that. She provides her shields, they get one tapped. Well, now they do. And she provides the attack buff, which, to be fair, right? The attack buff only working on one character, the person on field that's shielded. I don't think that's as big of an issue as some of the players might make it out to be. I think it would be an issue in anomaly teams, but I think for an attack type team, that wouldn't really be as big of an issue. Most attack type teams don't have 2 attack type characters on the field at one time. Now, in the future, when Orphie gets here, for instance, this would be a problem because you can't use or you can't benefit with the plus 1000 attack both on the main DPS and Orphie, who's in the background shooting laser beams and fire volcano explosion meteors, right? You wouldn't be able to benefit from that. So that would be a detriment. The second thing that you could also talk about, which I do believe they mentioned, was the outclassing part, right? Similar to Lucy, where it's like your best in slot wouldn't be Caesar. Your second best in slot also wouldn't be Caesar. Your third best in slot still wouldn't be Caesar. Your fourth best in slot, or if you have it, use it option, would then be Caesar. So that's a huge thing. But dang, dude, I wanted this to be 20 minutes, but it's not. Everyone else is still the same for the most part. I think Seed and Trigger really took a lot of yap out of us and whatnot, but it is what it is. That's it though. That's how I feel about the tier list. I think so far this tier list is fine. I don't really have too many things that I would change outside of the things that I talked about. Maybe, you know, obviously I'd bring Chingy up. I know the big thing that people talking about is like Poker versus Trigger. M6 Poker and Trigger, it's not a giant, like, go ask Muzzy. You guys go ask Muzzy for the math on that one. Go ask Jay Stern for the math on that one, something. But like in game, like when you're using these two, M6 versus M0, like it's not a big, and then no engine, the damage difference, the team performance between the two is not so significantly different. Now Poker is clunkier to use, yes, absolutely, but that doesn't take away, like, we're talking about a tier list where I'm assuming the players who would be assessing the tier list know how to use the engine or know how to use the characters. So we wouldn't take into account the person not playing Poker correctly. Poker just has a naturally clunkier kit. Could you bump Poker down? Yeah, absolutely. Am I going to argue that? No, not really. If you bump down Poker to tier 1.5, oh my God, bro, they bumped down my fucking big titty leopard. I'm so upset. Like, what am I going to do? I can't bounce on it anymore because she's tier 1.5 and my rule is that I can only bounce on tier 1 or above. I don't care. Like, it wouldn't matter to me if you bumped down Poker and left Trigger in tier 1. That's a personal thing at the end of the day, right? Like, getting upset, final thing, getting upset as somebody being in fucking tier 1 is loser behavior. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, everything doesn't need to be tier 0.5, especially if it's not justified, and it definitely doesn't need to be tier 0. The gacha community, specifically the Hoyo community, and by association, the Wuthering community, treat tier 1 as if it's fucking tier 4. You motherfuckers treat tier 1 as if it's the dog shit tier. Anything that's not tier 0.5 is just ass to y'all. And I don't understand why y'all have that mentality. It's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous to have that kind of mentality, bro. Damn. But it is what it is. Y'all let me know y'all thoughts and opinions. Like the video, comment, subscribe. I can't say my usual outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. I was gonna say I was gonna say it again. Smell you later.